Hey, basketball coaches and basketball players. My name is Alan from Al's Basketball Training, and today I'm going to talk to you about a full court press strategy that you can run with your team. If you want to try and confuse the opponent, if you want to try and get some quick hits, if you just want to destroy your opponent, changing up your defense can help, and this is a strategy that you're going to absolutely love and find a lot of success in. Let's get down to the clipboard and let me show you this strategy that I have used and many other coaches have used as well. Okay, so first you're going to start, or at least we're going to start with a 1-2-1-1 press defense. So this is when we basically have player 1 pressuring whoever gets the ball inbounded to them first. And he's going to be forcing the player to go left or right towards the sidelines. Again, you probably already know that you want to trap players in those corners, and you probably already know how the 1-2-1-1 press defense works. So I'm not going to get into that aspect of it today. However, this is the zone press that we would start, and we would run this for the first 2 possessions of the game. After the first 2 scores that we make of the game, what we would run is we would pull back player 4 and have player 5 at the free throw lines, and we would then have players 3 and 2 and 1 all at half court. Player 1 is going to take a step ahead, and we would basically run a 3-2 half court trap, where we would have player 1 forcing the ball handler left or right, with the idea of getting player 2, if it was to this side, player 2 to help player 1 trap the player over in this corner. We would then fill out, and we would be able to trap that ball. Now, if we were not able to trap that ball, the first 4 to 6 minutes of the game, we would be running my unbeatable basketball defense, which is basically a trap, or a double team, I should say, everywhere below the free throw line extended. But that would be a half court strategy, where right now we're talking about press strategies. However, this runs back into my unbeatable 1-4 defense anyways, so that's why this works really well. We would then move back into, after we run that until the end, like the 3-2 that I just showed you, after we run that 3-2 half-court trap, because again this fits back into my 1-4, we would then move into, after 4 minutes, so this is the 4-minute mark, 8-minute quarters. Halfway through the first quarter, we would go back into the 1-2-1-1 press. And we would run this for the next 2 minutes. After we run this for the next 2 minutes, the last 2 minutes, we would just sit back into our 1-4 that we run. Basically, it's a double team from the free throw line and below. Again, link in the description. Go check it out. It's a great book. It's a great defense that you're gonna win a lot of games with. I just had a coach who had a first quarter of the game running this strategy and this defense, going 28-0, winning 28-0. So definitely go check that out. But then, starting the second half or the second quarter, we would go back into that 3-2 half-court trap that fits back into the 1-4, or you can go back into a man-to-man defense or into a 3-2 zone. The half-court portion in the second quarter isn't all that important. Find what works for you for the team that you're playing against. The 1-4 that I just showed you and that we run most of our games, it does take a lot of stamina, a lot of energy out of your players to run that, especially the points. So definitely great defense, but we only run it really in the first and fourth quarter and about half of the second quarter and half of the third quarter. We like to still mix things up in the middle of the game. For the second quarter, we do start in the 3-2 zone, half-court trap, and then we then still fit back into our 1-4 until the second half of the second quarter, and then that's when we start playing around with things. And then we do this for the first half of the second quarter, And then we switch. In the second quarter, halfway through, we switch to a man-to-man full court. And we run that all the way until, and we like to press the whole game. If our players are getting tired, once we get to that man-to-man part, we will then switch into just whatever is working for our team. So if our team is really getting worn out, we like to do substitutions quite quickly with the teams that I've coached, and that is basically getting players in and out within a 2 to 4 minute period. That way I like to get my players, not necessarily all my players in. That's not necessarily my thought. My thought is to always have fresh legs, always running, because I want to really destroy teams defensively so that when we get back down on offense, of course this does help with turnovers. We can get a lot of turnover and fast break points, but what I like to do is make the other team really work, get fresh legs in quickly. That way we can keep the tempo higher than the other team. We can pressure the other team, and then when they get back on defense for themselves, that's when we start picking apart their defense, because they're not going to be moving as quickly. They're hoping to be back on defense to rest a little bit, because that's what a lot of players think. They really go all out on offense, and when they get back on defense, they're just like, man, I'm like beat, I need to go rest. I'm just going to say switch on this next screen and let the next guy deal with them. Things like that. And a lot of younger players will think like that and will do things like that. So if you're able to really pressure a team, you are going to have a lot of success with it, especially if you're doing it majority of the game. Now, when you move into the third quarter, again, this is the part where we're still seeing what the other team is doing, what we're having success with, how our players are reacting to how much running they're having to do. So we generally run a full court, if not just half court man, in the first half of the third quarter. Second half, we like to move back into our 1-4 unbeatable basketball defense. And then we really see if our players are able to run full court pressure again. If they are, we will run back into a 3-2 half court trap. And then in the fourth quarter, depending on how much we're ahead by, we'll kind of sink back into a half-court game to let our players rest for next game. We're generally talking about a lot of tournaments, not necessarily season style like in high school. So once you get into that fourth quarter, you can start getting a little bit more of your bench in. If you're really destroying the team, you can just sit back in a half-court man-to-man and just relax. And I don't mean relax as in like, hey, we're doing nothing on defense. I mean like still pressuring hard, but we're not going full court. We're not doing a half-court trap. We're not running a 1-4 unbeatable basketball defense where the top player is basically running around like crazy and getting worn out. Well, a man-to-man, in my opinion, at least how I like to have my players played, is a little bit more relaxed, just versus the unbeatable basketball defense and pressure defense. And then if we are still close in the game or losing by a bit, we will be pressing. And if we're pressing, we're going to be alternating. And the alternating part is going to be in the fourth quarter. This is kind of like how I like to switch things up and really confuse the other team. And if my team is smart enough to do something like this, we will do it. And that is running a 1-2-1-1, one possession. The next time we score, it's a 3-2. And then how I'm able to have my players communicate this is full or half. That's basically it. If we're running full, they know it's a 1-2-1-1, we're running full. If we're saying half, it's a 3-2 trap, we're running a 3-2 trap. And that's basically how I like to run the defense, and that's how I like to pressure. Now, not every team is able to run a pressure all game. I understand that there's some leagues that will not allow you to run a pressure at all. I understand that there's some younger leagues that once you get up by 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 points, you're not able to trap or full court press or half court press anymore. But generally speaking, if you're playing at the AAU level, if you're playing at the rep level, if you're a travel team, you're generally going to be able to press the whole game. And I usually run a full court or a half court trap press as long as we're up by within, or if we're down or up, it doesn't matter. But if we're under a 20 to 25 point lead, then we're still pressing. If we're over a 20 to 25 point lead, then we're going to be relaxing a bit. We're running back into our half court 1-4 or a half court man-to-man, and that's just basically how we like to run it. I hope that this video has given you some strategy ideas on how to run a full court press and how to run a press strategy, on how to confuse the other team. And if it has, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys again later on today for the second video of the day.